Grilled patties, topped with smoked bacon, melted cheese, and our sweet and tangy Stacker sauce. Stack 1, 2, 3, or 4 patties, or go bigger with the Stacker King. Juicy quarter-pound patties, flame grilled to perfection. Discover the sauce that is changing the game.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Coca-Cola, available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery, inspiring luxury. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. West Bay Pharmacy, taking care of your health. And RF Group, money at work.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Ort Connor.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, O land of soft, fresh breezes and verdant trees so fair. Today is the 19th day of November 2021, right here in the Cayman Islands. I hope and I trust that everyone had a restful, peaceful, enjoyable evening. Those of you who are on the roads of the Cayman Islands, we urge you to please be extremely cautious. Ensure that you observe the rules of the road. Remember, the life you save may be your own. If you're celebrating a birthday today, we want to wish you a happy birthday, or if you've celebrated a birthday over the past few days, a belated happy birthday to you as well. I think we have been asked to give happy birthday greetings to Roy Connolly, also known as Peter, from his wife Trudy, children and grandchildren as well. So again, happy birthday to Roy Connolly, also known as Peter. Petey, okay, I'm told. Petey. Okay, for those of you who've lost loved ones, again, we want to extend our sincere condolences to you. We hope and we trust that your faith will help to carry you through these extremely challenging times, and that the memories of your loved ones will be a blessing as well. For those of you who are at home, either in quarantine or in isolation, we hope that you will be out soon and that you will be feeling well also. So, folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles, as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, wherever that may be. As you know, For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I'm your host, Ort Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. During that period, our phone lines are open. The radio voice of DJ Lynn waiting to take your calls this morning. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flow. That toll-free number, 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. Email us at fortherecord, one word, fortherecord at CANDW.KY. WhatsApp us 925-3261, where you can send us a text message or leave us a voice note, the contents of which will be played during the course of the show. And of course, you can follow us on YouTube simply by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning Dr. John Lee, Chief Medical Officer of the Cayman Islands, and also my pleasure to have on the phone lines with us from the beautiful island of Bermuda, one of our sister overseas territories, and we have on the line the Chief Medical Officer of Bermuda, Dr. Ayola Oyenlowe, and I hope I pronounced that right. I hope I didn't destroy that. Doctor, good morning. Welcome to
Good
For the
morning.
Record, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thanks for being here. And I'll have Dr. Lee say good morning to you as well.
Good morning, OC. Good morning, Io. Good morning, all the listeners. Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me on the show.
So, we're going to ask you to give us some history about yourself, Dr. Ayola, in terms of your tenure in Bermuda. And first, how did you end up in Bermuda? We could ask Dr. Lee the same thing about the Cayman Islands. How did he end up here? But we'll ask you, how did you end up in Bermuda?
Hi, you can call me Ayo. That's
Ayo? Okay,
easier.
excellent.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. So I'm medically trained. I trained in public health and have been working in the UK since 2004. I was the director of public health in a town in the west of England called Swindon, and there was an opportunity to come into Bermuda in 2009 to help with the healthcare reforms. I took the opportunity. However, there was the delays with work permits. It took quite a while to get that sorted. It didn't get sorted until May 2020, and of course, everybody knows what happened at the beginning of 2020. The predominant focus of my work then shifted towards the pandemic response, and that's why I'm in Bermuda now.
Okay, so you jumped right into the hot seat as soon as you arrived there.
Absolutely. I started August 2020, and shortly after that, we had what we thought at the time was our biggest wave, but with benefit of hindsight now, that was just a rehearsal.
Okay, as you know, the Cayman Islands and Bermuda, we have been linked in so many ways. In 2004, we had a devastating hurricane here in the Cayman Islands, Hurricane Ivan, and we were fortunate to have the Bermuda Regiment come over to the Cayman Islands and assist us. Our political leaders, some of them have forged extremely close personal as well as official ties. For instance, when we had a leader of government business, the Honorable Kurt Tibbetts, he and the Premier, Alex Scott, then Premier of Bermuda, were extremely close, got along real well. As a matter of fact, again, during Hurricane Ivan, Bermuda rendered assistance to us, and what they committed to do and what they did basically was that while we compete with each other in certain areas, they agreed that any new registration of companies in Bermuda that would have moved over there for registration as a result of us being unable to handle them, they would, in essence, pass those funds over to us. They would reimburse us for the funds lost there. So we have forged extremely close relations with Bermuda. We've, in some instances, been extremely competitive as well. And of course, one of the areas that we really didn't want to be competitive with had to do with COVID, but we do find ourselves in similar situations. So we'd like to talk to you this morning about the situation in Bermuda as far as COVID-19 is concerned, and your efforts to reopen, especially to tourism in Bermuda as well. So we're going to pass the mic over to you, Doc.
Okay. So the first thing to say is that Bermuda never really closed. What happened was that the peak of the pandemic in 2020, some of the airlines stopped operation, and therefore the airports had to close. But it wasn't really, it was close to passenger traffic, it wasn't really close to freight services. So the island never really closed completely. So that's the first thing to note. However, from June 2020, there was a phased reopening. with measures put in place to allow the island to reopen to passenger traffic as well, and as well as tourism. And so there was phased over 4 phases. Each phase gets, with restrictions from each phase getting successively less onerous, up from phase 1 to phase 4. Side by side this, we were building up the laboratory capacity to be able to deal with this pandemic. Originally, we only had one laboratory that was certified to do molecular diagnostics needed to be able to manage this pandemic. That was a private laboratory. The government went ahead to invest in a public laboratory and we got a Bermudan from the UK to come and head that laboratory. And at the same time, the hospital was equipped to do this as well. And a third private lab was also certified to do this. So we were able to rapidly build up our capacity to test for this variant. And the truism goes, you can't manage what you can't measure. So we were invested quite heavily earlier on in the pandemic to be able to test and manage this. Alongside that, there was a lot of investment in protective personal equipment. You remember that earlier on in 2020, there was a global shortage of PPE. Everybody was buying from the same source, and it really was quite bad. We had to get a lot of orders for things that were not exactly things we would need because we just needed to get something on board. But things got progressively better, and the private sector really stepped in to help as well. Some people provided private jets to be able to import personal protective equipment. So that was what some of the things we put in place to be able to reopen successfully. I must not forget to mention increase in our oxygen capacity. We more than quadruple our capacity to provide medical grade oxygen for the island, and that proved to be extremely useful, particularly in the wave that we're just getting to the tail end of. As a health system, my colleagues and I worked to make sure that we had clear guidelines to both primary care, the community health sector, and also to acute care to make sure that everybody was on the same page. It was this was before I came to the island, and this was work primarily led by my predecessor, but it's been really, really an interesting journey. Unfortunately, there's no blueprints to work on for this. We had to learn like the rest of the world, but we think we got a solution that worked for us.
Mm-hmm. Can you speak to the assistance that you received from the United Kingdom in terms of vaccines and any other assistance that they may have rendered?
Oh yes, absolutely. The assistance we got from the what used to be Public Health England is now the UK Health Security Agency was invaluable. The assistance was in form of technical skills. Most of the modeling that we did originally was provided for us by that team. There was also some advice around personal protective equipment. And as you mentioned, virtually all of our vaccines came from the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office through the government house in Bermuda. So the assistance provided by the UK was really, really invaluable. As a small island nation, I'm sure it's the same for Cayman, we would not have had the economic clout or simply the numbers to be able to place an order that the manufacturers would have prioritized at the start of this pandemic. So it was really, really helpful to have the assistance of the United Kingdom to get the economies of scale in place
Certainly. Can you speak to the vaccination rate in Bermuda at this point in time?
Yes. So Bermuda has had a very interesting checkered history with this vaccination. At the moment, we are up to about 80% of our population, eligible population, who's been vaccinated. Of the total population, we have just under 70% of our total population had 2 doses. About 71% of the total population had at least 1 dose. It's been a very turbulent journey. When we first started, we had very strong demand for vaccinations, but with benefit of hindsight now, that those are the eager beavers, those who really wanted to get protected. We have a very, very strong minority, but a strong voice of people who are object to taking vaccinations, but they are very, very vocal, and that's cost us quite a bit of problems in getting to where we need to get to with our vaccinations in Bermuda. However, over the last couple of months, a combination of the very bad outbreak that we had and the changes to travel rules has meant that more people have decided to get vaccinations, and that's really been extremely helpful to us.
Excellent.
A problem I can see that my colleague, Dr. John Lee, didn't have as much as we did, because it's been looking at I can only look at your figures with envy.
Okay, we're going to talk more about you and Dr. John Lee. Dr. Ayo, we have to take a commercial break. We're going to ask you to hold on the line there while we take this commercial break. When we return, the conversation with you will continue, so please stay tuned.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. The Cayman Islands, He hath founded it upon the seas.
Albert Radley Gerzong, Certificate of Honor, 1921 to 1995. Radley Gerzong went to sea at the age of 20 to fish for turtle and shark at Mosquito Keys. He was on the schooner Majestic II when it was struck by a hurricane in September of 1941. 19 of the crew went ashore on a nearby key and survived, but the other 22 stayed on board the ship, which floundered on a nearby reef and went down with all hands. He served in the Home Guard from 1943 until 1945, when it was disbanded, and then joined the Cayman Islands Police Force. He married Jennifer Wood, with whom he had 5 children. After retiring from the police force in 1977, he was hired to look after the armory and uniform storeroom, which he did until 1985. After that, working as a security guard and sergeant of arms in the Legislative Assembly. He was best known as a fiddler. He and his group, the Happy Boys, played old-time music for dances all over Grand Cayman and helped keep the quadrille alive in Cayman. A fan of American country music, he was once invited to perform at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville.
Radio Cayman's Historical Vignettes was brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects.
The Rotary Central Music Extravaganza 2021 tickets are here. Get your $25 ticket and stand a chance to win the grand prize of $40,000, second prize $4,000, and 6 $1,000 prizes. The Music Extravaganza music event, Saturday, November 27th at Salty's Grand Harbor, featuring CNB, Deja Blue, The Fabulous 68s. Tickets now on sale by Rotary members, authorized ticket sellers, and at eventpro.ky. 26 years of Rotary Music Extravaganza, funding over 70 community projects of significance since 1995. Rotary Central, Cayman Islands. Registered not-for-profit number 232. Rotary Central. Serve to change lives.
Since March 2004, West Bay Pharmacy has kept their doors open to the local communities, even before, during, and after Hurricane Ivan. At West Bay Pharmacy, our staff provides so much more than pharmaceutical excellence. From the moment you walk through our doors to completing your cash out, our staff will have put your healthcare concerns at ease. We would like to take this moment to thank our loyal friends and customers. To us at West Bay Pharmacy, our patients are our primary concern. We provide thorough background checks and precise calculations to ensure your medical safety. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
Had a look at those investment options yet? Too busy. Look at today. Workout, breakfast, take the kids to school, back-to-back meetings, take Pepper to the vet, and she's apparently got allergies now, so... And that was all before 12. But you look relaxed.
That's because my money's as busy as you.
With RF, you can access the best in local and international investments to keep your money busy, so you can spend more time focusing on you. Contact us at rfgroup.com to find out more. RF, money at work.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, K-Man.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom-designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. John Lee, and on the phone from the beautiful island of Bermuda, Dr. Ayo Oyenloye, who's the Chief Medical Officer over there. Now, Dr. Ayo, I believe that you have to leave us at a certain time. I'll tell you, we have about 8 minutes. We'll go to our 8 o'clock news. That news will run for about 15 minutes until 8:15 our time, which I'm not sure whether or not you will be able to stay with us. We hope you can, but please let us know if you will be able to remain with us until after our news.
Yes, I would be. I'm able to stay till 8:30.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. So, we don't want to leave Dr. Lee out of the conversation here, and I understand that you are familiar with each other as well. And I'll give you 2 questions at some point in time that you can get to. One has to do with what you wish you knew then when the pandemic first arrived, with the benefit of hindsight, things that you probably would have done different, or if you knew now, then what you know now, how that would have affected you. And I'd also like you to speak to about a young doctor, PhD, Dr. Karika Weldon, who came back to Bermuda and has been working over there. I think she's in charge of the molecular diagnostic and research laboratory over in Bermuda as well. I'd like you to talk, about her contribution to testing in Bermuda as well.
Correct. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, Dr. Lee, over to you.
Ayo, I also have a couple of questions, if I may. I've obviously got answer for them too. I'm wondering how you feel your healthcare systems responded to the pandemic.
Okay. It's been a mixed bag. We have a system that is predominantly private sector driven. And the advantage of that is that there's a lot more choice. But the disadvantage is that when you need central control, as you would in a pandemic of this size, it becomes next to impossible to implement. So we've had variable level of cooperation from primary care colleagues in the community. Some were very enthused and helped us, got on board very early. We had our testing capacity, our ability to sample was severely stretched over these waves of infections that we've had. And on several occasions, we've had to call on our colleagues in private sector to be able to help. Some helped, others felt that it was not their business, as you would expect in a predominantly private sector-led organization or country. But also, my colleagues in the hospital have we have only one hospital with just under 100 acute beds on Ireland. The planning with my colleagues in the hospital has been very helpful. So they were able to plan for this and could expand the acute bed capacity by 50% fairly easily. So that initial plan was very helpful when we had this last wave that really taxed all of our resources. So having that original plan and working through it, exercising it across the whole system worked. Engagement was patchy, particularly from our private sector colleagues, but I really should give kudos to some of my private sector primary care colleagues who really stepped up to help, and that was invaluable. So in terms of lessons learned, it's about planning and understanding exactly what we may be getting into, making sure that you all understand what is available and who to help, because the casualty of any emergency, the first casualty is the plan. What stands is the relationship you've built ahead of the emergency, and you're then able to call on those relationships, and that works spectacularly well for us, particularly with the hospital. So if I were to go through this again, the first thing I want to make sure is that we all have plans and we all have exercised those plans. So we're clear about what your plan says and you're clear about what my plan says, and we have a good relationship to call on.
I must say that's I think in some ways that, reflects our experience here, in that it is the teamwork and the communication that has really brought us through this, but not only within healthcare, but also within government, because we activated our National Emergency Operations Centre very early, and that was open for the longest while to bring us through the initial part of the pandemic. And now, again, although we haven't actually said it's officially open, we are actually almost the same group of people have been meeting daily for the last 8 weeks in our preparations for reopening. So very much about teamwork and communication.
Absolutely.
For us, we have, as you know, a government hospital and a very significant private sector, probably around 50% for each of those. And even between those two groups, there has been a tremendous amount of joint working, which has been so valuable in us trying to respond. I did have a question really about your most severe recent wave. Did you have to reduce or stop your elective work at the hospital?
Oh, yes, we had to. The hospital went to escalation level 4, which is basically the first time it's ever been that. They had to stop all electives because we had, at a point in time, we had twice the capacity, the built capacity of our ICU. So we had to open satellite ICUs. And obviously, if you don't have an ICU, it makes no sense for you to have elective operations. And also, quite a few people stayed away from hospital. The impression was that hospital was a place, wrongly so, that the hospital was a place where you catch COVID, which is, so it was a bit of a challenge also reassuring people that your strokes and heart attacks should still come to hospital because that's the best place for them to get care. But in terms of elective work, we had to stop it and only reopened elective work a couple of weeks ago when our numbers became more manageable.
Okay. Dr. Ayo, we're going to go to that 8 o'clock news that I spoke about. We're going to ask you to hold on to the line because as soon as we complete our 8 o'clock news, we're going to come back to you. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news.
For Thanksgiving, are you thinking roast turkey or glazed ham?
Ooh, let's go turkey.
Great. Now for sides, let's do scalloped potatoes, mac and cheese, and steamed herb vegetables.
Yum.
And for dessert, should we go apple or pumpkin pie?
Pumpkin for sure. But when will you have the time to cook this feast?
Oh, I won't be cooking. I'm ordering a holiday dinner from Foster's. They start from just $79.99 and are easy to order online. Just head to fosters.ky.
Easy, delicious Thanksgiving holiday dinners only from Foster's.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
The 8 a.m. news is proudly sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. For further information, please visit chamberpension.ky.
Do you know how well your pension plan performed? Attend the Chamber Pension Plan's annual general meeting to stay informed and find out how you can achieve your desired retirement lifestyle. Members are invited to meet our trustees and take part in our question and answer segment on 1st December 2021 at 6:30 p.m. at the Chamber of Commerce Boardroom in Governors Square. Refreshments will be served. Please visit our website chamberpension.ky or email admin@pensions.ky for further details. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you.
For today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
With your latest news, I'm Karsley Fuller. The Minister for Health and Wellness shares a number of upcoming and already completed upgrades to public health and the Health Services Authority resources in the fight against COVID-19 at a press briefing on Thursday.
Phase 4 has been long awaited and by many, and I am mindful of the public's concerns with the increasing number of COVID-19 positive results that have been reported in the past few weeks.
As you heard live right here on Radio Cayman, the Honorable Sabrina Turner announced that the flu line has been expanded with additional staff and is operating a new location. The operating hours of the flu clinic will be expanded. Additional isolation rooms have been set up at the Accident and Emergency Department. And the hospital has also converted, quote, a significant portion of inpatient rooms to negative pressure for the safe management of COVID admissions.
Arrangements to set up this field hospital at the Family Life Center has now been initiated and will be operational in the next few weeks. Now, this facility will hold a capacity of 80 beds. However, it will be set up in phases so that initial beds will aim to be ready for mid-December.
Minister Turner says the field hospital will be used for the care of less severe COVID patients and enables the HSA to continue its elective work without interruptions. More severe COVID patients will be cared for at the hospital. Other measures include efforts to recruit additional staff, the automating of self-reporting of positive cases via lateral flow testing, a new isolation request and release form for those in quarantine, and the opening of 3 new exit testing centers. Cayman's borders reopen to tourists tomorrow. With the government requiring travel insurance for COVID in the event of someone becoming positive while traveling here, Home Affairs Chief Officer Wesley Howell says plans are underway for a local option.
Delivered COVID travel health insurance policy. In the meantime, we're encouraging travelers to have their own travel insurance or to understand that any expenses that they may have in relation to a COVID incident on island would be on their tab.
During Thursday's COVID press briefing, Mr. Howell demonstrated the newly updated travel request portal, which will allow for automatic verification of QR-verified vaccination records within the portal. The chief officer says Cayman is the first in the world to have a common check interface go live. And police are on the hunt for a wanted man. Radio Cayman's April Cummings reports.
Police say firearms officers on patrol in Georgetown spotted a wanted man near the Government Administration building on Elgin Avenue yesterday afternoon. The officers approached the man. They say he brandished a knife and threatened them. So they drew their tasers and instructed him to drop the knife, but say instead he ran off on foot before they could detain him. Officers reportedly pursued the man but lost sight of him in the vicinity of the passport office on Elgin Avenue. No one was hurt during the incident, and officers say they didn't discharge any weapons. Police say no members of the public at Government Administration Building were placed in danger by the wanted man. April Cummings, Radio Cayman News.
Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, which will take us out of the newscast. I'm Karsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with David Harper. Austria is to reintroduce a full national lockdown and make vaccination compulsory as it tries to slow a record surge in coronavirus infections. The Austrian Chancellor, Alexander Schallenberg, said the lockdown would start on Monday. He said COVID jabs would be mandatory from February next year. The Japanese government has approved a record stimulus package worth almost $500 billion to help the economy recover from the effects of the pandemic. It includes direct payments to households with children, support for businesses, and increased wages for nurses and care workers. In a surprise reversal of policy, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi said he will repeal agricultural reforms that have sparked a year of protests by farmers. Mr. Modi admitted he'd been unable to explain the benefits of the laws. It comes ahead of elections in the farming states of Punjab and Uttar Pradesh. The Women's Tennis Association says it's prepared to pull its tournaments out of China unless it receives proof the Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai is safe. Ms. Peng has not been seen since she accused the former Chinese Vice Premier Zhang Gaoli of sexual assault in a social media post 2 weeks ago. BBC News.
The 8 a.m. news is proudly sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. For further information, please visit chamberpension.ky.
Do you know how well your pension plan performed? Attend the Chamber Pension Plan's annual general meeting to stay informed and find out how you can achieve your desired retirement lifestyle. Members are invited to meet our trustees and take part in our question and answers segment on 1st December 2021 at 6:30 p.m. at the Chamber of Commerce Boardroom in Governors Square. Refreshments will be served. Please visit our website chamberpension.ky or email admin@pensions.ky for further details. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
The 8:10 a.m. weather report, Monday through Friday, is proudly sponsored by Pan American International Insurance Corporation. Pan American International Insurance Corporation, meeting the life, accident, and health insurance needs of individuals and businesses to ensure financial security and peace of mind. For more information, call 949-8304 or visit www.palig.com. That's PALIG.com.
For over 100 years, more than 5.8 million people across the Americas and the Caribbean have placed their trust in Pan American Life Insurance Group. We have delivered on our promise and have proven that we are more than an insurance company. We are family. To learn more about our first-in-class individual and group life, disability and accident solutions, please visit Pan American International Insurance Corporation at Unit 221, Cannon Place East, North Song Road, Grand Cayman, or contact us at 949-8304 and visit us online at www.palig.com. Pan American Life, people you can trust for life.
For additional weather information, visit www.weather.gov.ky. As well, stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information. Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
The 8:10 a.m. Weather Report, Monday through Friday, is proudly sponsored by Pan American International Insurance Corporation. Pan American International Insurance Corporation, meeting the life, accident, and health insurance needs of individuals and businesses to ensure financial security and peace of mind. For more information, call 949-8304 or visit www.palig.com. That's PALIG.com.
For over 100 years, more than 5.8 million people across the Americas and the Caribbean have placed their trust in Pan American Life Insurance Group. We have delivered on our promise and have proven that we're more than just an insurance company, we're family. To learn more about our first-in-class group health and employee benefit solutions, please visit Pan American Life Insurance Company of the Cayman Islands at Unit 221, Cannon Place East, North Sound Road, Grand Cayman, or contact us at 949-8304. You can also visit us online at www.palig.com. Pan American Life, people you can trust for life.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
At Subway, we caramel a lot about our customers, so we decided to give you 2 treats in one with the new Caramel Apple Cookie. Enjoy cinnamon apples, caramel bits, and salted caramel crunch baked in, and topped with a drizzle of caramel-flavored icing. Gooey, crunchy, and yummy. Complete your Subway sandwich, pizza, or salad with the delicious Caramel Apple Cookie or any other cookie flavor and dessert, available for a limited time at all Subway locations. Subway, eat fresh.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. My pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning co-hosting Dr. John Lee, the Chief Medical Officer in the Cayman Islands, and on the phone lines from the beautiful island of Bermuda, Dr. Ayo Oyinloye, who's the Chief Medical Officer over in Bermuda. Doc, are you still there?
I am, yes.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, I'm going to put Dr. Lee onto the mic for you. Dr. Lee.
Hi again, Ayo. We talked about lessons learned before, and I just wanted to say that absolutely respect the issue of planning. One of the things that I found most helpful was public information. We had a lot of effort put into daily press briefings for a while, and subsequently we've tried to push out information as much as possible through all our sources. I mean, people can never have enough information, I think, but I've found that, a big lesson to learn for me, certainly, and for us in Cayman, that the more you can give people information, the more happy they are probably to go along their journey with you. So that was from our side.
I agree completely. To add to that, we also need a variety in the voices that are giving the information to the public. We did something very similar to what you've just described. But what we quickly discovered is that having the same voices over and over again, sometimes the message gets lost, and having a variety of voices giving the message actually does help.
Yeah, thank you for that. We absolutely agree. Sometimes we find difficulty in getting people to come forward.
I know.
I think OC also mentioned a question, so I'm just going to come back to that question. With the benefit of hindsight, what might you wish you had known before, or so in setting out your plans, what would you have done that you didn't know you had to do at the start?
Okay, so I suppose the main thing is that this is not a linear outbreak. Things don't always follow the textbook, and it's real life. It oftentimes is quite messy. You can only say this with the benefit of hindsight. So yes, I wish I'd known that this is not linear, and some of the variants of concern that we were dealing with, because they're emergent, you really don't know a lot about them until people, you get the experience, or you read about the experience of other people. The way these variants perform can be quite unpredictable. So at the start of the year, when we started our vaccination program, we were really pushing to get everybody vaccinated and to reach herd immunity. At the time, we thought we could reduce the spread and all infections by having a very high level of vaccination. But obviously, with the benefit of hindsight now, we know that the vaccines are very good at preventing deaths, hospitalizations, and symptomatic diseases, but not as good in preventing all infections, and obviously not as good in preventing transmission of the virus. That became even more apparent with more transmissible variants like the Delta variant in all its variations. At the time, we were not really clear about this. The messaging, as we talked about, could have been clearer on the value of vaccination, because this is something that the people who are opposed to vaccination sort of picked up quite early and ran with, claiming that the vaccines were useless because they did not stop all infections. And you and I know that that's not the case.
Great.
The other thing that, sorry, you go on.
Yeah. Oh, what was your other thing? Sorry, let me. We're really enjoying hearing your views.
Certainly.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is that me joining the leadership of the country effectively mid-pandemic sort of made things more complicated. I had to get up to speed very, very quickly and join the leadership to respond to this pandemic very quickly. So obviously I wasn't as steeped in the planning as most other people would have been, and the advantage you have in Cayman of having John over a longer period of time. But
that must have been very difficult. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. That in itself is not a problem. It just means that we need to work doubly hard to make sure that we get to where we need to get to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Ayo, we know that in all countries dealing with COVID-19, there's always the political pressure and the political pull and the scientific pull as well. Did you encounter any of that in Bermuda? You may or may not want to speak to that, but we've seen it happen, and Dr. Lee will tell us his story sometime in December, just before he leaves.
Well, you're absolutely right. I don't think it's the tension between politics and science. It's a tension between what we know in science and all the other things that needs to be taken into consideration. So what I tell my minister and the rest of the cabinet is this is what we know for now based on what people have published. They have the democratic mandate and they have the overview of all the other sectors of our society, the economy, the culture, and everything else. And therefore, they have the democratic mandate to make those decisions. We, as public officials, our job is to advise government. It's government's job to make those decisions.
Great. I was just going to come back and say I think what I wished I'd known, and it's probably slightly curious for some of the listeners to hear, but the value of the data and also the value of the information technology systems, because we've found that with growing numbers of infections, in order to reach people, the only way we can do this is essentially by automating it. So although the labs can churn out the results, we need to get the results to the people at the same time as sending people a public health message with those results so they know what they have to do. And I've never realized, the people in the computer services department at both the government hospital and at the government have become my best friends because I'm talking to them so much about systems, border systems and result systems, all the rest of it, as to how to use this data in order to to serve us and protect us. That's been very interesting for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But the flip side, and this is something we've experienced here, is that in an attempt to use more technology at the same time as protecting people's privacy, if you over-rely on technology, you might not be able to get what you need. Case in point, the contact tracing app. I think most people are relying less on that now because it depends on people voluntarily putting up their codes in their system and other people having the right type of phones, leaving their Bluetooth on to be able to get all the notifications. What we thought that was the solution earlier on in the pandemic, but it quickly became apparent that your results is only as good as the compliance of everyone. And when it's not mandated, when you're trying to protect people's privacy, you cannot really rely on people doing what they ought to do. And that means that you still need to go back to the old method of contact tracing.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Dr. Ayo, we will not be open here to cruise ships until sometime next year. What is the position with cruise ships in Bermuda, coming into Bermuda?
Right. So we've had a very interesting cruise ship season this year. So it's only about 25% of the normal passenger numbers, actually less, but closer to 20% of the normal passenger numbers that we have had. And because we've insisted that all crew and passengers have to be vaccinated, that's really helped us to manage the cruise season so far. But because we had a smaller number, the testing regime was more manageable. I mean, discussions with the rest of my colleagues on how we're going to handle that for next year, where we expect a full cruise season. It's going to be extremely difficult to test the volumes of passengers that we're expecting. And if anything, this outbreak has taught us that vaccination is a good tool, but it's not the only tool that you can use to prevent infections from coming into the country.
So, Ayo, when you say test, it sounds like you're testing the cruise ship passengers before they depart, before they land. Is that correct?
That's correct. So they are tested before they board for virtually all of our cruise ships. We test them on board before they land and make sure that they have their that's their entry test, if you like, to make sure that they're COVID-free. And we have, on each sailing, we've found quite a couple of either crew or passengers who've tested positive. We've been able to isolate and quarantine the positives and quarantine all their contacts and allow the rest of the crew and passengers to enjoy the island. So testing them before they come on board, and in addition testing them before they actually land in Bermuda has been incredibly helpful to us.
And of course, Dr. Ayo, your situation is unique to ours in that our cruise ships do not overnight here in the Cayman Islands, but they do overnight in Bermuda.
Yes, they do. Mm-hmm. They do. So we're fortunate because of our location. The cruise ships tend to attract our ships coming directly to Bermuda. The first cruise ship we had actually was the Cruise to Nowhere. They were home porting in Bermuda and going around the waters and coming back to us. So that was very straightforward to manage. But we started having cruise ships coming from the United States, but they were coming here and going back to the United States. If they were going across the Caribbean, as I would imagine would be in the case for you in Cayman, and that would add another layer of complexity that needs to be considered.
Okay. Dr. Ayo, I know you have to leave us, but before you go, any words of advice that you would like to leave with us here in the Cayman Islands?
First of all, I'd like to congratulate everybody in the Cayman Islands for the fantastic level of vaccinations that you've been able to achieve. And that's evident in the fact that you're not having the sort of hospitalizations and deaths that we have seen in Bermuda. So you really need to pat yourself on the back for the fantastic work you have done ahead of this outbreak that you had. Having said that, though, it is inevitable that people who are vaccinated, particularly people with poorer health, would end up in hospital, and unfortunately some may die. That is not an evidence that the vaccines are not working. It's just these vaccines help reduce the risk for each individual. So your baseline risk still matters. The vaccine lowers your risk, but it doesn't bring it to zero. So please know that you will inevitably have people who are fully vaccinated who may end up in hospital and unfortunately may still die, but the predominant proportion of people who have this vaccine will be protected.
Excellent, Dr.
Thanks very much, Ayo. I think what I'd like to say is thank you to you. You've been a stalwart member of the UCOT Friday morning meetings with the other UK overseas territories. Your opinion is always incredibly valuable and appreciated by me. I think that for many people, they won't realise that healthcare is often like a family, whether you're in a hospital or whatever setting. The people who work in healthcare tend to stick together fairly well and strongly like a family. So I thank you as one of my UCOT cousins, and I wish Bermuda and you all the best in the future.
Okay, and Dr. Ayo, we don't know where Dr. Lee is going when he leaves here, and if he's coming to Bermuda, I'm sure you can't tell us either.
I know nothing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ayo. Again,
thank you so much for having me.
God bless.
I wish you all the best in Cayman Islands. This too will pass away.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Folks, we're going to take a commercial break. When we return, The Honorable Wayne Panton, Premier of the Cayman Islands, and the Honorable Minister for Tourism, Honorable Kenneth Bryan, will be in the studio with us, so please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
During these unprecedented times, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Cayman Strong Series. The Cayman Strong Series is brought to you by OnCourse Cayman. Visit oncourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. OnCourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
Achieving your goals is a very rewarding feeling, but at times can feel very frustrating, especially if and when we miss our target. As you approach your goals in life, set yourself up for success.
When setting your goals, celebrate your progress. It's important to acknowledge progress each step of the way as you achieve your goals. Everything that you do to move in that direction gets you a little closer. Planning small rewards along the way can help to keep things interesting and give us a taste of what sweet success will be like.
Change your thinking and change your life.
During these unprecedented times, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Cayman Strong Series. The Cayman Strong Series is brought to you by OnCourse Cayman. Visit oncourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. OnCourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
These days, feelings of loneliness, anxiety, stress, and depression can be overwhelming. Just know you are not alone. OnCourse Cayman offers private mental health services for children, teens, adults, and groups. Visit oncourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualifying team. OnCourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
We think it's time you crossed over to a new vehicle. And with the 2021 Toyota Corolla Cross now at Vamt Motors, you have plenty of reasons to make the switch. The crossover body and hybrid engine is a sleek design in a sturdy structure with a spacious interior that opens to extensive cargo space. Stuck in traffic? The high-performance self-charging hybrid system automatically switches between gas and electric vehicle mode, helping you lower both fuel costs and carbon emissions. The Corolla Cross has full LED lighting inside and out, an integrated display audio system with energy monitor, and a dual-zone climate control system to ensure comfort for all. Test drive the new 2021 Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid today at Vamt Motors, Walkers Road.
With Logic, you get more things you do want, like faster fiber internet, more TV, entertainment, and better customer service. And you get less of the things you don't want, like waiting, boredom, and disappointment. More of the good, less of the bad. It just makes sense. Or should I say, it's logical. See what I did there? Call us or go to logic.ky to find out how you could be getting way more of what's good.
FedEx Delivery. Share this season with everyone by shipping your rum cakes and gifts with 30% off and get an additional 20% on your next shipment. Visit us. Restrictions apply.
Excuse me, I noticed you from afar.
Really? Me?
Well, not you. The KFC sandwich you're eating.
Oh, Zinger.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be funny.
No, it's called the Zinger Sandwich. Crunchy, juicy, 100% chicken breast, crisp lettuce, sweet mayo on a seeded bun with a little zing. KFC's chicken is not factory breaded, frozen and refried like the Burger Boys. Customize your KFC Zinger and dip it in barbecue sauce.
Wow, now I'm starting to notice you too.
KFC, it's finger licking good.
It's about time I upgrade my life.
Wait, you win money?
No, even better. I plan to pursue some CXC qualifications. Time to learn something new and earn a better salary.
Man, our CXC day's done.
No, man, you can still get CXC qualifications through a private learning institution after you've left secondary school. Just visit cxc.org for their full list of exams and contact the Ministry of Education for registration details.
Explore your full potential with a qualification from CXC.
The Ministry of Education invites eligible Caymanians to apply for overseas government scholarships for the 2022-2023 academic year. To apply for an overseas government scholarship or learn more about the various scholarship programs, please visit the recently upgraded scholarship application portal at www.moescholarships.gov.ky. Applications close on Monday, 31st of January, 2022.
On Tuesday, November 23rd, some customers on South Church Street, South Sound Road, and in Secret and Hidden Gardens on Fairbanks Road may experience short intermittent interruptions to their electrical service between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. CUC apologizes for these service interruptions, which are necessary for repairs to the transmission system. For more information, contact 949-5200 or email service@cuc.ky.
For the Health of It is heard on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and repeated on Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. It is brought to you by Holy Cross Health. Quality medical care and advanced technology with sincere compassion and understanding. Our mission is you. Call 1-954-351-5906. Email global services at holy-cross.com or visit Holy Cross Health at holy-cross.com.
The Department of Environmental Health would like to advise Bodden Town residents to get their bulk waste ready for collection from November 15th to the 20th. Household appliances, furniture, and other items too large to be handled by the weekly DEH collection crews should be placed by the roadside where it is easily accessible to DEH collection crews. Metals and vegetation should also be separated from other bulk items. Do not obstruct the roadway or storm drains, or place tires, construction and demolition waste, hazardous materials, or electronics. For more information on the Bodden Town bulk waste collection from November 15th to the 20th, please contact DEH's Solid Waste Management Section at 949-6696.
For the record with Ort Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I want to thank Dr. John Lee and Dr. Ayo from Bermuda. Dr. Ayo certainly brought a different perspective, as far as coming from another jurisdiction on about COVID-19. Of course, the way we go about dealing with it, quite similar, and of course some of the resources that we have, both Cayman and Bermuda being an overseas territory, we do receive similar assistance from the United Kingdom government as well. So, like I promised you, one half of what I promised you in the studio with me this morning, and it's good to have the Honorable Kenneth Bryan, Minister with constitutional responsibility for tourism and transport, here in the studio.
Good morning,
Mr. Bryan, good morning. Welcome back, sir.
Good morning. First, I want to say it's a pleasure to be here on the show with you. And I was listening to Dr. Lee as I was driving in traffic. So sorry for the 7 minutes lateness. I had a lot to talk about today. I hope that most people were watching the press conference last evening and had an opportunity to get a ballpark understanding to where the government is going starting tomorrow. Just to give you an idea, there's not much changes other than the one everybody's talking about is the no quarantine. So today, I hope to try to explain how that is going to work and the reasons why you should feel comforted that the government has a good monitoring process for it, which allows us to give some level of normalcy, but at the same time continue to check on the safety element of the virus. So that's the plan today, and I hope that I can get most of it in, and by 9:30 take one or two calls for people who may not fully understand any particular area.
So we'll hold off the phone calls until around about 9:30. Yes.
All right. OC, as you heard yesterday in the press conference, we announced Phase 4, which starts tomorrow. And in phase 4, the fundamental change is certain people who will be coming to the Cayman Islands will not have to quarantine. And I think most people by now may know exactly who those individuals would be. But just for a matter of repetition, it's going to be persons who come from, there he is. It's going to be persons who come from countries that are above 60% vaccination rates. For example, the primary places is the UK, United States, Canada, many of the first world countries who've had the opportunity to have vaccinations available to their countries earlier than others, and persons who are securely verified. For those who don't have securely verified but are from countries of more than 60%, they will have the benefit as well. And the reasoning behind that is the risk levels would be subject to be a little bit lower because there's a higher vaccination rate within that country. So, for example, I know that many people were speaking about the fact that in the United States, though there's a lot of the large population of people are vaccinated, they were having difficulties with getting securely verified vaccinations, basically meaning electronically verifying your status. And as a result, we decided that our CBC officials had the capabilities of going through it. It makes it a lot harder work to go through the process, but one that we were willing to do in the interest of tourism and
a little more time consuming as well. Probably,
exactly.
Yes,
and a little bit more time consuming. So ideally, we're going to possibly see people from countries like Jamaica, Honduras, could potentially come and not vaccinate, but they would have to be securely verified. Now, that's the chances of that are slim because not many options are available in those countries to get it securely verified. But if they happen to do so, whether they have access to going to the States and getting it done, but if you live in these countries that are below 60% vaccination rate, they will still get the benefit in any other country, because you recognize that with our development of our tourism product, there's going to be a lot more businesses and people coming from Europe and the like. So with that being said, those persons will be able to come and not have to quarantine. But the most important thing is once they get here, what does that mean when they don't have to quarantine?
Yes.
As we know, the procedure for them coming to the Cayman Islands will still remain the same as to getting on the flights. So before they come, everybody, including those who don't intend to quarantine, has to take a PCR test 72 hours before travel. And they will also have to go to the government's newly and up and running travel portal. And on that travel portal, which is governed by the Travel Cayman team, who've been working really, really hard over the last couple of months and headed up by the Chief Officer, Mr. Wesley Howell, they will have to go to this portal and make their application. So you get two different types of certification approvals. And one basically says you don't have to quarantine. The other one says you have to quarantine. And on the quarantine one, just for the easy access at the airport so people can identify them, the one that says you have to quarantine has a big red line in it. So it gives a bit of an alert to the team there. And the other one is a one-sheet printed form with a QR code on the right-hand side of it to the bottom. And in that, once the Travel Cayman team has collected all the data and information, our CBC team pretty much just all it has to do is scan that, and it tells us all the data that we need, and we know what category you fall in, and then they can safely come through.
Okay, so for clarity, anyone traveling to the Cayman Islands still has to go through the Travel Cayman portal.
Very good point. Because what we recognize is there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be traveling from Cayman who's going off for shopping. So for those who may say, well, boy, I want to go take a little trip now because I don't have to quarantine because I've been vaccinated here at home, you still have to go through the travel portal and get approval for travel through that portal. And it's pretty easy for us here in Cayman. You just put in your data, information of your name, email address, and all that, and scan and upload your HSA card with from HSA. But there's also another process where HSA is offering persons to get securely verified the Cayman way, and that makes your process a lot easier. In respect to the certifications for travel, they give you, if you have a securely verified code, you get 3 months approval for travel. If you don't have a securely verified code and you do the manual upload of the information, they give you a 1 month approval. That is an incentive for you to get it securely verified.
Okay, we're going to go to a commercial break, but before we go, we want to say good morning and welcome to For the Record to the Honorable Wayne Padden, Premier of the Cayman Islands, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Rosie. Good morning to my colleague, Mr. Brian. And good morning to the wonderful people of our incredibly wonderful Cayman Islands. Always a pleasure to join you. This is my second Friday in a row now.
Yes.
that I will have joined you, and as I said, it's always a pleasure to be here. And the discussion this morning obviously relates to our reopening tomorrow, where we are effectively lowering the quarantine requirement for vaccinated travelers. So that is obviously a very significant move for Cayman, and a very significant move for our economy and for many people in our country who depend on tourism. So I will be enjoying the discussion as we move along this morning. Thank you for welcoming me.
Folks, we're going to take a commercial break. Please stay tuned. For the Record, we'll be back shortly.
We think it's time you crossed over to a new vehicle. And with the 2021 Toyota Corolla Cross now at Vant Motors, you have plenty of reasons to make the switch. The crossover body and hybrid engine is a sleek design in a sturdy structure with a spacious interior that opens to extensive cargo space. Stuck in traffic? The high-performance self-charging hybrid system automatically switches between gas and electric vehicle mode, helping you lower both fuel costs and carbon emissions. The Corolla Cross has full LED lighting inside and out, an integrated display audio system with energy monitor, and a dual-zone climate control system to ensure comfort for all. Test drive the new 2021 Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid today at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
Are you feeling sick but don't feel ill enough to go to the doctor? Ask your pharmacist for advice. Here at West Bay Pharmacy, our pharmacists have been trained to offer helpful, easy-to-understand advice on the treatment of everyday minor ailments for yourself and all the family. Anything from headaches, cough, and sore throat to cold sores, our pharmacists will know when medical help is needed and will not hesitate to refer you to your doctor if your symptoms demand it. Like doctors, our pharmacists have a professional code, which means all personal information you give them will be treated in the strictest confidence. Visit us today at West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
The technology sector is forecast to be one of the fastest growing industries in the next decade, with more jobs available than skilled people to fill them. Enterprise Cayman is helping to fill this void and grow the next generation of Caymanian innovators, giving young people access to high-quality learning experiences with the opportunity to pursue careers in technology and innovation sectors. Learn to code, how product development works, enter professional competitions, access high-tech resources, network with special economic zone industry professionals, and much, much more. Visit enterprisecayman.ky to find out more. Brought to you by Cayman Enterprise City. It's that time of year again when our spelling bees are buzzing around with activity. Bee, bee, bee. Join us at the Lions Center on Wednesday, November 24th to show your support for our best young spellers during the 30th staging of the Lions Club of Grand Cayman's secondary spelling bee competition. The spell-off begins at 10:30 a.m. Don't be late. Brought to you by the Department of Education Services and the Lions Club of Grand Cayman.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800 534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning the Honourable Wayne Patton, Premier of the Cayman Islands, and Honourable Kenneth Bryan, Minister with Constitutional Responsibility for Tourism and Transport. We're talking about the Phase 4 reopening of the borders of the Cayman Islands, which will take place tomorrow, Saturday the 20th of November 2021. Those of you who had the benefit of watching the press briefing yesterday, some of these things that we're talking about, you may have heard them already, but repetition is good, and it will add more clarity as well to what is taking place. So, Minister Bryan, back over to you.
Yeah, thank you again, OC, and good morning again, Premier. One of the questions you would ask in the break was about Caymanians who may find themselves traveling overseas and happen to contract the virus overseas. It's a serious concern, one that I think that we should advise the public to try to do everything you can to be as safe as possible if you have to travel in these times for whatever reason. And obviously, like I said yesterday at the press conference, we're going to do everything we can to assist Caymanians. But from an international perspective, I think that the answer to that should come from the leader because it's international responsibilities. I'm more local with respect to tourism. So, Premier?
See how they ducked it hard. No, absolutely. But it's a very important thing for, I think, all of us to remember. Under the regs, which apply to everybody, we are required to have a negative PCR test to board a commercial flight to come back. So this is yet another reason why people who are traveling need to be very, very mindful of the activities that they undertake, assessing the risks and trying to make sure that they comply with all the normal safety protocols and minimize as far as possible their risk of getting exposed and being tested positive when they go to get their pre-flight PCR. If we don't have the ability to bring them on a commercial flight, then they're going to effectively be stuck on that side. We will, as Minister Bryan said, we will do everything we can to support our people, but it is going to be subject to that sort of scenario. Medically, they're going to be better served if they can get access to medical services on that side. Particularly if it's a place like South Florida, or some other urban center which has great medical services. So we'll do everything we can to support them, but under the law and under the regulations, they won't be able to come back commercially. I suppose that leaves a question about whether it might be possible to utilize like an air ambulance service or that sort of thing. But I don't think that we would be necessary. Normally don't air ambulance somebody into Cayman, you air ambulance them out of Cayman when they need ongoing health care. So that's something that we want people to be very conscious of, and it's just another reason that they should be very careful. That we have spent some time also saying to people for a different reason to be very careful about traveling and making sure that they adhere to the health protocols, because when they come back, let's say they get a negative PCR, they come back, we want them to sort of minimize the extent to which they move around the community and go and visit, socialize and visit family and elderly and people who perhaps are vulnerable and church groups and that sort of thing for maybe a week or so. They're going to be subjected to the lateral flow testing. I don't know if my Mr. Bryan has covered that yet, but he'll get into details on that. But that will help identify anybody that may come up positive after the PCR pre-flight test. But we still have the risk, and we want to minimize that risk as far as possible. And this is just one more thing that we want the people of the country to understand is a personal responsibility, and it is something that it is contributing to the overall good for our collective good for the community, and something we want them to be conscious of.
So without wanting to raise any levels of expectation, when you say that we will do what we can to assist them, could you expand on that? What that means. If a person provides or comes up with a positive PCR test before boarding a flight, and they find themselves financially distressed.
Yeah, I mean, it could be circumstances that every situation may be different. So, you may have somebody, for example, that needs some sort of financial coverage in order to be able to access the healthcare services that they need if they're, if they become sick and require hospitalization and that sort of thing. So those are the types of things that we would take into consideration on an as needed basis.
And any advice then, the same way that we're going to be requiring persons who are non-Caymanian traveling to Cayman and having to have a medical insurance, shouldn't we be encouraging our people when they're going overseas to do the same as well? Not forcing it upon them, but certainly encouraging them.
Travel insurance is always a good idea that covers significant risk in terms of the possibility of medical services being needed. That is always a good idea for people traveling.
The also the important part is that there's different types of insurance, right? So obviously the medical part and the other insurance could be to cover your costs for stay. So hopefully if somebody was to get sick, that they can go through what majority of people who get COVID go through, which is you have to just stay isolated until the virus passes. A very small percentage of people ever end up in that severe situation where they're in the hospital. So chances are, if you got it and you may be asymptomatic like most people, you'll be told you have to stay until it's negative, right? So that means you're probably going to have to stay in a hotel for probably about a minimum of 10 days until it passes, you get a negative. So what I would encourage persons to do, like the Premier has said, is try to get travel insurance, or at the very least, have monies put aside in the event that you may find yourself in that situation to pay for a hotel in the United States or wherever you are until the virus passes. Obviously, trying to be cautious and be mindful of the virus while you have it, and be connected to all the healthcare providers in the area. Make sure your family on this side knows, so in the event if something severe happens and you need assistance, that the government can step in. But yes, we encourage persons to plan appropriately, because this can happen. And if, as much as the Premier is going to say, yes, we're going to do everything we can, it becomes a very costly exercise to everybody if you're caught in a difficult situation, because air ambulance or serious medical costing in the United States, if you find yourself in a hospital over there, can easily go over $100,000 to the Cayman Islands government if you can't cover it yourself. And as you know, we're very strapped at this point. I know it's not something we want to make people feel that we won't be there for them, but we're already strapped for cash in these difficult times. So just be mindful. You have a level of responsibility, not only to yourself, but to the greater community, because these are the taxpayers' monies that we're spending. OC, before we had went to the break, we were talking about the travel portal, and explained that you would have to go to Travel Cayman to get that certification. Once you've gotten that and you've gotten out of the airport, I want to talk about the most important part, which I think most people are want to focus in on, is how those persons who are not quarantining, how are we keeping an eye on them? And our travel policy for the lateral flow for tourism sector and all Caymanian, all travelers, period, is obviously you have to get tested on day 2, day 5, and day 10. Now, when we were developing this, we go, okay, we're using the lateral flow now to monitor that process. But at one point, there was considerations to do an honor system, like how they do in the UK. But at this particular point, the risk is too high. Hence the reason why we invited healthcare providers to be a testing provider for the Cayman Islands, whereby if you travel and you come back home, or you're a visitor and you come here on day 2, which is literally day 3, because when you arrive, that's day 0.
Right.
And the next day is day 2, and the second day would be the following day after that. You'd have to go to a list of many approved healthcare providers, and that list of healthcare providers will be put up on our tourism website, as well as our Explorer Cayman.ky website. And we have over 25 different groups, and I have a list of them here. I think people will know most of the majority of the usuals, like Health City, Doctors Hospital, but I think it might be important that I list some of them.
Certainly. What we'll do is we'll take the headline news at 9 o'clock when we return. We'll go into more detail with this as well, because this is going to be extremely important for people to understand. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Continuing the Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
Spread the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Government reported the results of 1,357 COVID-19 tests on Thursday. 206 came back positive. As of 8 a.m. Thursday morning, there were more than 3,600 active cases of COVID-19, 5,300 people in isolation, 20 people in the hospital. Days after Austria imposed a lockdown on the unvaccinated, it has announced a full national COVID-19 lockdown starting on Monday. Chancellor Alexander Schallenberg said it would last a maximum of 20 days and there would be a legal requirement to get vaccinated from February 1st, 2022. He was responding to record cases and one of the lowest vaccination levels in Western Europe. Many other European countries are imposing restrictions as cases rise as well. And Serena Williams says the case of Chinese tennis player Peng Shuai must be investigated and urged people, quote, not to stay silent about her welfare. The 35-year-old has not been heard from since she made sexual assault allegations against a leading Chinese government official 2 weeks ago. The Chinese media has released an email attributed to Peng, but doubt has been cast about its authenticity. Serena Williams says, quote, I hope she is found safe as soon as possible. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
had a look at those investment options yet? Too busy. Look at today. Workout, breakfast, take the kids to school, back-to-back meetings, take Pepper to the vet, and she's apparently got allergies now, so... And that was all before 12. But you look relaxed. That's because my money's as busy as you.
With RF, you can access the best in local and international investments to keep your money busy, so you can spend more time focusing on you. Contact us at rfgroup.com to find out more. RF, money at work.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom-designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
We think it's time you crossed over to a new vehicle. And with the 2021 Toyota Corolla Cross now at Vant Motors, you have plenty of reasons to make the switch. The crossover body and hybrid engine is a sleek design in a sturdy structure with a spacious interior that opens to extensive cargo space. Stuck in traffic? The high-performance self-charging hybrid system automatically switches between gas and electric vehicle mode, helping you lower both fuel costs and carbon emissions. The Corolla Cross has full LED lighting inside and out, an integrated display audio system with energy monitor, and a dual-zone climate control system to ensure comfort for all. Test drive the new 2021 Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid today at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
If you or someone in your household is a primary contact to someone who has tested positive for COVID-19, you could be required to isolate at a moment's notice.
Be prepared. Ensure that you have stocked enough food, water, prescriptions, and sanitary items to last for 14 days.
Have a plan if living arrangements require adjustments. And remember that all deliveries must be contactless.
For any queries, contact the 24-hour flu hotline 947-3077 or email flu@hsa.ky. For more tips, visit www.gov.ky/coronavirus.
For the record with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, Honorable Wayne Panton, Premier of the Cayman Islands, Honorable Kenneth Bryan, Minister with responsibility for tourism and transport. We're talking about the measures that have been updated for the transition into phase 2 reopening, which takes place tomorrow. Back over to you, Minister Bryan.
Yes, thank you, O.C., and I hope I don't want to take up all the time because the Honorable Premier is here and I know people want to hear from the top. But I was just suggesting that, over 25 different healthcare providers will be available for travelers to go and do their mandatory 2, 5, and 10 testing after traveling. Mm-hmm. And that list of providers will be available on the government website as well as the tourism website for you to check which one is closest to you on island, also in Cayman Brac. And just for surety, there's no private medical. It's just a general medical practice in Cayman Brac that you'd go to. So I think it's only one location. But if you want to know all of them, you can go to the tourism website. We'll have that up there for you. But one of the key points that we were talking about off air was how do you ensure that persons are taking this, right? So how it works is you come off the plane and day 2 comes around, you go find one of these providers and you say, I'm here to do my 2, 5, and 10 testing regime from a traveler. They will take your test and then take your information and notify you of the results because they don't want you to wait around for the results because then it creates a clog. Yes. You can have, up to 2,000 people per day having to meet those requirements. And sometimes you may actually have days overlapping. So people who come in on day 2 to do their test is the same person who's coming in to do or another person coming in to do a 5. Eventually, when you get further down in it, it's just every day is going to be fully loaded. So you come in, you do your test, and you'll be notified. The provider will also be obligated to keep public health updated with every single person. So we'll know by the end of the day who had to be tested and who didn't get tested. And then, as we were talking about in the break, to remind the public, it's a criminal offense if you do not take these tests. It's basically like breaching quarantine because this test is the replacement for quarantine. And the only reason why this is allowed is because once you meet these criteria, you seem to be less risky, right? So just so persons understand, and I know many tourists is not listening to this radio, but I know a lot of Caymanians who may be traveling are. And the travel regulations are under the COVID-19 regs, which provides for a fine on summary conviction of $10,000 or imprisonment term of 2 years or both for persons who don't go and do it. So it's not something that we want to do, but we want the public to understand this is something very, very serious. So hopefully nobody tests positive, so we don't have to worry about that. Nobody misses the time for them to go get tested. So they get the test, they go back to whatever they were doing. The expectation is that you'll get a notification by the end of the day. If that says positive, your instructions will be there as to what to do. If it is negative, you continue on with what you're doing. Those providers are obligated to let us all know as the reports come in so we can monitor from a central hub with public health. And that will happen day 2, day 5, and day 10. Now, the other part that is important for the tourism travelers, for those in the industry who may be paying attention today, is that some of these lateral flow testing results can also be used for travel when you're leaving. So that email, the response that you get from the healthcare provider will be something that is certified, so that when you're going to the States or you go to the airlines here at the counter, you can see that it's one of the listed healthcare providers. You have your email response saying that yesterday I got a negative lateral flow test. And therefore you can use that for travel. So, and the reason why, I don't know if you had heard, I actually called in with Joey, and Joey was saying that I heard it's 2, 5, and 10, and I said, well, how did you know that information?
Yes.
You got insider information, because originally it was 2, 6, and 10. But the reason for the change from 6 to 5 was from industry standards of how many people, how long people normally stay.
Average stay.
The average stay.
Yeah.
So a lot of people in the industry was asking, can they use that testing to return back to their destination? And the answer is yes. Because of this email certification, that gives you that certification that you need. I also say that
if it falls within that,
within the 72 hours,
within the pre-flight window.
Yes, and that allows me to address another point, because I did hear some comments that I got back myself personally as to the costing that you heard us announce yesterday of $25. Now, it sounds like a lot for a lateral flow test, and you're right. For if you were just buying a lateral flow test, that would be ridiculous. But there is more work on the back end that is necessary. So these providers are offering a service. It's not just the test kit itself. They're responsible for collecting the data, notifying.
It's the certification process.
It's basically what you're paying for.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've had people saying to me, well, I went and bought lateral flow tests. Why can't I use them? Well, in this case, we want this regime in place so that we get this certified confirmation, rather than just relying on the honor system, and we want that in place. We put that in place specifically for tourists, and it should apply equally to Caymanians who are traveling, because at the end of the day, I mean, there is a risk, obviously, that you can pick up COVID just from local transmission. But when you travel and you go outside our borders, you are then potentially exposed to all the other variants of concern that might exist out there. And, you know, we want to put in place a regime to make sure that we can provide a higher degree of control around that, so we can identify people as quickly as possible and have that verified or certified by somebody. So, yes, it's actually at $25. The initial discussion started off quite a bit higher than $25.
Yes,
so
it was.
Let me say that I want to commend the minister for the for the arm twisting that he has done, because he's obviously, as we all are, always very conscious about costs that end up getting passed on to people. But at the end of the day, you know, if you have the money to travel and go shopping and whatnot, then you know you need to factor in these costs, and you've got to put that as part of your budget.
And it's over a 10-day period, right? So you don't have to pay it all at one time. And just to add on to what the
and the Health Services Authority will be also on that list, or they won't be.
Health Service, I don't think so, because what we're trying to do is lessen the burden to the health care. So leave this to private sector, and a great opportunity for entrepreneurs that are practicing medicine to offer this, because once you're licensed under a regime, you can do this. I've heard of actually some providers are going to offer a concierge service. Will be probably a little bit more expensive than the $25, but rather than have to go out to an office, they can come directly to you and do the test there, take your details, and do the work from that. So if you are a young Caymanian who went off to study health, or even a nurse, a registered nurse can potentially do this as well, as long as they come through and meet the protocols that we need. So we want to make it as easy and as accessible as possible. The $25 is the highest limit for just the test coming directly to your office. Now, if they want to add on a concierge element to it, that's for them, but we don't want it to be any higher than that. But there is a large list of persons. I'm not going to go through them because I've just been notified that there's 2 people who have not been fully confirmed, and they have not been able to tell me which one. So I'm afraid to read somebody out, and they have been fully confirmed. But the list this is there for people to see. Now, we expect that everybody will do that. Most persons may not end up doing the whole stint of 2, 5, and 10, because I was saying to you the average stay of tourists is actually 5.5 days. so they may not get to the 10, but that's more focus for the local component.
Yes.
They're obligated to do the same. In respect to the pricing, we're hoping that eventually with a larger flow of persons coming in, those prices will go down. And actually to say that when we first initially started, I wanted to say, could we absorb the cost as a government to try to make it easier for tourists as well as locals alike in the initial stages. But after doing some calculations, let's just, for example, do 10,000 persons for the month of December, and they had to do 3 tests, so 10,000 times 3 equals 30,000. And if you times it by $25, then you get hold on, let me do 10,000 times $25 equals $250,000 times your times the $25. Sorry, my calculations are so bad this morning. Let's try that again. 10,000 people for 1 month times 3 times $25. $750,000. That's $750,000. Hence the reason, even though we didn't want to pass it on to the consumer, we need to save money at this time. That $700,000 can help Caymanians get a home or help a senior person who needs assistance. So at first it was going to be January before the consumer got it. But if, like the Honorable Premier has said, if you can afford to travel, you can afford $75.
Factor that into it. Yes.
Factor it
Okay, folks, we have to take a commercial break. When we return, the conversation will continue, so please stay tuned.
West Bay, home to Barkas National Park, the touristy flair, a family community, a political powerhouse. From sports enthusiasts to car aficionados, affection for silver thatch rope. No matter how far you may venture, West Bay will always be where the heart is. Home will always be in West Bay. West Bay Pharmacy, caring for your home and your family. West Bay Pharmacy in Centennial Towers. Convenient, quality care is just around the corner.
Had a look at those investment options yet? Too busy. Look at today. Workout, breakfast, take the kids to school, back-to-back meetings, take Pepper to the vet, and she's apparently got allergies now, so... And that was all before 12. But you look relaxed.
That's because my money's as busy as you.
With RF, you can access the best in local and international investments to keep your money busy, so you can spend more time focusing on you. Contact us at rfgroup.com to find out more. RF, money at work.
You can now register online to receive a securely verified digital copy of your COVID-19 vaccination status with QR code through the MyHSA patient portal. Sign up is available online and at all HSA locations. All you need is your photo ID showing date of birth and an email address. Visit hsa.ky and click the MyHSA patient portal icon to get started.
Study local and go far this spring. Want to start your bachelor's or associate degree or just need a few classes to complete? Registration is now open for spring classes at UCCI. Scholarships are available for the spring semester, but you need to act now to meet the deadlines. Visit www.ucci.edu.ky to enroll now. Classes begin January 10th. Enroll by December 1st for a chance to win an iPad or a laptop.
Radio Cayman News.
Staff are operating with heightened vigilance in their duties.
We will not tolerate negative behavior such as fighting and bullying in our schools.
The Centers for Disease Control in the U.S. warned Americans against traveling to Cayman because of COVID concerns.
The move to level 4 does not automatically mean that the Cayman Islands tourism industry will be negatively affected.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Yeah.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matter. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Okay. Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, the Honorable Wayne Panton, Premier of the Cayman Islands, as well as the Honorable Kenneth Bryan, Minister with responsibility for tourism and transport. I have a few WhatsApp questions, and we will pose those to the Minister and the Premier once they have finished explaining the changes. So, Mr. Bryan, back over to you.
Well, actually, I was going to see if the Honourable Premier wanted to address that point.
The first one? Okay, so should I read it? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, please.
It says, good morning. Yesterday it was announced that government amended the regulations to allow partitioned areas of 100 persons each, and outside venues can have up to 250 persons in partitioned areas. This amendment raises the number of persons grouping together, potentially leading to super spreader events. Please explain how, in the midst of our outbreak, does this change help the average member of the public?
Okay, so we have public gathering limits in place. For indoor events, we have a maximum of 100. For outdoor events, we have a maximum of 250. Well, see, what we're cognizant of is that people want to, particularly coming up to the holidays, and for some of the restaurants, they want to have events for people, and we want to help facilitate that while maintaining and containing the level of risk within the existing public gathering limits. So we have effectively three scenarios. One is we have somebody who has the ability to have 100 people indoors, and then they also have an adjoining outdoor facility where they can have 250 people outdoors. To be clear now, the 100 people indoors and the 250 people outdoors cannot mix. So they can have one venue, and they can effectively have one event going on, but you can't be mixing the two groups. So that is where, if we were doing that, then I would agree with the question coming from the member of the public that is increasing the risk. But by doing what we're talking about here in that scenario is we're confining the two groups within the current public gathering limits. Then the second one obviously relates to outdoor situations where we have separate, we keep the groups of people separate in groups of a maximum of 250. So if you have 2 or 3 scenarios where you can have you have your people separated, and you have the limits of 250 for each of the separate areas, and they don't mix either. They're not allowed to mix. Right. So we're confining those limits and that risk to the 250 for each of those. They're not allowed to mix. They can, if you have one event going on and you have your PA system would have to be set up, for example, where you have live in one section, but all the other 1 or 2 sections would have to be just on over the
conference.
It would be over the PA system, right? You're not going to see the live person, so it's going to be completely separated. So again, we're separating those risks, and then the third scenario is where the limits can be exceeded, provided there is PCR or lateral flow testing, which goes on within the 24 hours, certified within the 24-hour period for customers and staff of that event.
Okay.
So which is what we're hoping that persons would do, regardless of whether they meet the limits or not. And allow me a couple of minutes just to say this. even if you meet the requirements indoor for 100 or outdoor for 250, we're encouraging persons for your own safety, for your own event. You would hate to know you had an event as a promoter or as a business owner, and then you found out that a large amount of people who came to that got sick. So we're suggesting, particularly as lateral flow becomes more available and cheaper, I mean, you eventually, I think it's going to get to like $2 in the Cayman Islands. And if you got 250, that's $500 as an organizer. So just do it. You know, I mean, and people may actually want to know, that may encourage people to come to your event to say, my event is a lateral flow covered event that is pure and safe. So we want to encourage that. So even though you can get away with it under the law, if you don't want to do that, we still encourage it. That's why the provision is there within the lateral flow policy, as well as allows you to increase it up to 500 for outside.
Optional. Okay.
That's advice coming from a former organizer of events. So yeah. So I mean, but that's, he's absolutely right. You know, obviously, you know, the extent to which people can be as responsible as possible and adopt the best possible means of protecting their customers and their staff, please, they should consider doing that.
Okay, another observation. This person says, so if I get it clear, we need to get a PCR test going from and coming back to Cayman?
No. Each country, each destination on flights from Cayman may have different requirements. So I believe I'm correct in saying that Jamaica will accept a lateral flow test. And obviously that's got to be a certified lateral flow test. The U.S. will also accept a certified lateral flow test. I'm not sure about any other jurisdiction to which Cayman fly, any of the Cayman flights go. Obviously we have flights starting up to Canada and other places. So I'm not sure about it, but I know Jamaica and the U.S. for sure. So those two can take lateral flow tests, but most people would do PCRs. But there are two options.
And for convenience sake of the public, which the onus is really on you if you're a traveler, is to find out the destination you're going to and find out what your requirements are. But obviously, we're going to try to facilitate as much as possible information. So I'll encourage that on the Government Explorer website as well as the DOT website to constantly update the requirements for travel purposes. But yes, it's on your responsibility. But I want to hone in on what the Premier said in respect to certified lateral flow tests, because I don't want people leaving to say, oh, I heard on the radio that all I had to do is a lateral flow test before I went somewhere. Certified is the key part, meaning that you took the lateral flow in front of an authority that the government accepts. Not self-administered. So in order to say that has been done the proper way, because without that, when you go to the airport, the airline will not accept you to get on the plane, and we don't want you to lose any money on your flight. So you have to do it in front of a healthcare provider that is already certified by government to issue that kind of email certification.
Okay, another listener says, please ask who's monitoring who's monitoring that every traveler will do the test, or is it left to individuals to be responsible enough to comply with the law? And I know you've already explained it to me off air, but and I think it'll be helpful if we start off with how you're going to be authorized to travel in the first place, that you have to go through Travel Cayman, so that Travel Cayman will already have your details, in there. So
they know who the travelers are.
Yes.
So it's pretty much a simple scenario of a tally system. Like you rightfully say, CBC and Travel Cayman will have the listings of persons who came in, say, for instance, on Monday or on Saturday the 20th of November. So we know then that that's 0, and the day 1 will be the Sunday, and then we know on Monday. So hypothetically speaking, there's 1,000 people, or let's go 500 persons who came in on Saturday. We know that there has to be 500 tallies of persons taking the test on Monday amongst all these various different providers that we're having. So they're obligated to report back to us every person who has been tested and what their results are. Now, if those tallies don't match up to, say, John Brown, Kenneth Bryan, Wayne Panton, or Connor, and we notice that well, Mr. Art Connor hasn't come in today. Then you, obviously a search party is really starting to come out for you. And then you get the $10,000 and the 2-year imprisonment risk on your head. So our team, through Travel Cayman as well as Public Health, will be monitoring that every day and tallying off to make sure everybody has done so. So that's how we'll be monitored. And obviously every day we'll have a different set of numbers. Hence the reason for the cost of this testing regime for the $25, because the data and information collected by these providers is so vital to the monitoring process. Yeah.
Okay. We're going to take another commercial break, folks. Please stay tuned. We have all these sponsors, so we have to pay the bills. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom-designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
It's the International Men's Day Island-wide sales event on Friday, November 19. Enjoy awesome savings and amazing deals from your favorite stores and service providers. Honor the positive contributions of men and boys while supporting local businesses in-store and online. Offers so incredible, you'll get something for the entire family. International Men's Day Island-wide sales event on Friday, November 19. Brought to you by the Family Resource Center and endorsed by the Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce. Check out FRC's social media for a list of participating stores.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, the Honorable Wayne Patton, Premier of the Cayman Islands, Honorable Kenneth Bryan, Minister with responsibility for tourism and transport. We're talking about Phase 4 reopening, which takes place tomorrow. Have another WhatsApp message here, and I believe we do have callers online now because they trying to hold me to my word. They would take calls at 9:30. None yet? Okay, good. Okay, so this person says, can you ask whether or not I can use a lateral flow test before returning, and if that will be acceptable?
Okay, so what we talked about earlier in terms of the U.S. and Jamaica, for example, accepting lateral flow tests doesn't apply the other way around to Cayman. Our requirements are different. We will still require a PCR test for a pre-flight check before you board to come to Cayman. One thing I do want to, in that context, also clarify is that you have the normal sort of PCR test that may take hours to process, and then you have the rapid PCR test. Either one of those works fine as long as it is a PCR test.
Okay.
Polymerase chain reaction
yes,
test.
Yes.
Just to be clear.
We're all doctors now. I'm just kidding.
Have a nice one here. Now, this one says, good morning. Thanks to the Honorable Premier and the Honorable Minister of Tourism for they say finally using Radio Cayman, and I will correct them there and say that the Premier comes on as often as he can, and Minister Bryan, even when he can't come on, he will call in. Yeah. Even when the opposition is on, he will call in. But for using Radio Cayman, Cayman's Airways to engage and educate the Cayman Islands public, especially those who are not savvy about social media or websites, etc. Could you also ask them if there are any plans for the GIS to develop a number of jingles, PSAs, and infomercials to run on Radio Cayman and CIG TV on a daily basis? Now, I don't know if
this is in relation to...
They haven't said whether or not it's in relation
information.
To opening or whatever.
I think we do some now, though.
We do some, but I mean, I don't know. I have to say, I don't know in terms of our comms, our communications department and GIS. I don't know the extent to which it is more social media based versus radio format. But I will check, and I will make sure that whatever we do on social media is also reflected appropriately in a radio context.
And I'll accept the fact of the general concern, which is not everybody's technology efficient. We still have a lot of persons who are, use your traditional stuff and work with comms to ensure that, particularly Radio Cayman continues to get that information.
Okay, we're going to try to grab some of the callers now. We have three queued up. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. Colonel, and good morning to your panel.
Good morning, ma'am.
I just want to ask a couple of questions. In regards to a restaurant having 100 indoors and 250 outside, and they're not supposed to mingle, those that are outside, where are their restroom coming from? That's one question. And another thing, those 100 is inside there. Who's going to keep monitoring that stays the 100? Who's going to monitor outside to say that 250 is still counted as 250? I'll leave that question. I would really appreciate you guys could answer that for me, because really and truly no disrespect to what you are trying to do with them having their parties and so forth for the holidays and giving them all this leave and so forth to a degree. I'm going to tell you right now, I doubt very much it's going to work, because the few that we're going to hear that is willing to do the right thing to keep COVID free, it is very limited people, and all the other ones, they don't care who get it from who don't get it. So I'm not saying that you got to police them out there that at these parties and the fuck off if they got it or they don't have it. I feel that we need to have temperature machines located throughout this whole island, that your temperature is being checked at the doors or wherever you may enter on this island, because this coronavirus is not looking good for the Cayman Islands. And I just want to say to you, Mr. Patterson, I would greatly appreciate if you could put a police officer in the Newlands area, I would say, on a regular basis, because the speeding that's going down in here is ridiculous. Our roads are full of holes. And I came in here a couple of days ago putting this black tire into the hole and just leaving it there. Then I even pressed it in. And about time to get some more in again, it's going to be washed out for the Christmas. I just want to know when you're going to get some decent roads in the Newlands area, especially the side roads. So I just leave that with you guys today, and I hope I get an answer to my satisfaction. And you'll have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You as well.
Okay, let's grab another caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for taking my call.
Good morning.
I wonder if you could help the parents, the children in particular, to understand the rationale why the under 12, really, the ineligible ones, the unvaccinated kids, can't travel with vaccinated parents without quarantining. Why they can't come back and do lateral flows for 10 days, which is exactly what's happening right now, when there is a known positive case in the house. So if the safety concern is alleviated by your mum's got COVID, but so long as you produce 10 days lateral flows, you can come and go to school, to your activities, to church, to everywhere. Why are they being punished for travel purposes? Why is it different that if they're going to see family, friends, loved ones, I'm not just talking about a frolic, I'm talking about essential, important travel for these kids who've been locked up for years. What's the logic and the rationale behind this differentiation?
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm sad that you see it as a punishment, because we definitely don't want it to come off that way. It's more driven by this safety component. And the main one for that is the difference between a local component and the travel component is the variance. So locally, it's keeping what is already here. So in the event that a person uses the lateral flow policy and, it doesn't become as safe as it can be and it passes to somebody else, it's something that is already here. The pandemic is still evolving. There's still concerns of different developments of different types of viruses. So we're not willing to take the risk as heavily as with travel. And Miss, I totally understand how you feel, because I'm a father myself and both my kids cannot be vaccinated, and I'm traveling for Christmas to see my in-laws in the UK. So I feel your pain. Actually, when I come back from Christmas, I have to stay in quarantine for 14 days myself. So Premier, I'll be zooming in for cabinet. And it's something that we fought really, really hard for through the medical advice with Dr. Lee, because it also has a major component from a tourism perspective. But, some days we were accused of not being strong enough to keep us safe, but then in other parts they say, you're not being loose enough for convenience. And it's not an easy balance to make.
Right.
And I think that the only comfort I can give you is that the government is committed to continuing to assess the situation. And if the numbers where they are right now start to kind of pan out or slow down, that we see we can control the current spread and it won't be such a risk, we can reconsider that. Premier, I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah, just to add, I totally agree with the comments you have made in terms of, the fact that we feel we understand the pain, we understand the concern, we understand the difficulties. But there are two sort of, that question that was sort of put as one is really two separate scenarios. One is the traveling aspect and requiring them to quarantine, and then the other is why can't we do it like the way we deal with the LFTs locally for school purposes. In the first scenario, we're talking about the possible exposure to variants, as you mentioned, Minister, overseas. So they have the concern around the variants of concern that may be brought in. And children are very effective vectors. They can catch it easily and they can transmit it easily. And they do a lot of mixing, obviously, with each other. And thankfully, with children, we know even from our own experience that they're very, very resilient, but they are good at spreading it. So there is that risk that we're trying to control. And then in relation to the question of, why can't we treat them the same way as the LFTs? Well, it's the local LFT children that can, if they're not positive, they can check every day and go to school. We're trying to create an environment where people can go to school, and the risk in that scenario is lower because we know what variants we have dealing with locally, and we don't have the same exposure to other variants of concern that can come from overseas. So the scenarios are a little bit different, plus the fact that we genuinely want to get the very positive benefits of allowing our children to go back to school by the use of daily LFTs locally. So it's not quite a comparison of equals in terms of the risks that we are seeking to address. The other point I want to make clear is that this is a temporary thing. This is not a permanent scenario, and we have. I want the public to understand, and I want the caller to understand that this is something that we recognize is difficult. We have pushed on this, and we have prodded, and we have gone in, drill down into details with our public health advisor, with our medical advisors, to understand the extent to which we need to maintain this position. And we came away understanding where they're coming from with the advice that they have given us. And this is the advice really is, look, it's not time right now to dial up the risk. We already have enough problems or difficulties that we need to manage. So let's try to control the risk. Let's try to maintain it as it is while we try to reduce the level of infection locally, and try to keep the possible exposure to variants as low as possible. In 4 or 5 weeks' time, once we've had the experience of what's happened, what kind of variants we might have been exposed to, and hopefully we'll get the local level of transmission lower, then we can consider moving effectively to phase 5, which would be allowing children to travel, take the vaccination status of their parents.
If I can say this,
why can't we start with a halfway mark? So why can't residents and close family ties be afforded the opportunities? It's not going to be huge mass numbers. It's going to be people who are desperate to see their loved ones, right? We don't have to extend it to tourists. If you're concerned about managing, and I understand we haven't even opened the borders, but why can't the residents be given that opportunity to say, look, you've done everything possible. You've quarantined before. You've followed public health. You've got vaccinated. So many boosters now. This is a risk that we think that you can take. We've got Delta. It's Delta that's the beast, and we've got it. Like, there's no, as far as I'm aware, there's no information provided to the public, either from the advice that you're getting or otherwise, that there is another variant that we need to be worried about. These are possibilities that may never happen.
And they might too as well. And our job is to take the advice of the medical advisors on that. Trust me, as Minister of Tourism, this has been a very contentious point for me in order to deliver my mandate as to bring tourists here. Okay. And there hasn't been a bigger fighter for this point than myself personally, as well as my ministry responsibility. And we have to. We had to listen to Dr. Lee on this area, and he wasn't prepared yet to do that. And the good news is that the Premier has said it doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to happen. Give us 4 weeks, give us enough time to see what the 20th of November actually means, and we may be able to make that decision, particularly for those who are traveling for Christmas. Because if you're traveling for Christmas, most likely you'll come back in the early part of January. Maybe we may actually have this problem resolved before it becomes a problem.
I want to thank that caller very much for that. We do have to go to a commercial break. We do have another caller on hold as well. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay.
No one can stop me when I taste the feel.
Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
If you've recently gone into isolation and need assistance with urgent supplies, help is near.
You can call the Isolation Support Line Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., or Saturdays between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. 1-800-534-3530 or 946-3530. Or email isolationsupport@gov.ky. Please remember to monitor for symptoms of fever and cough. If they get worse, contact the flu hotline at 1-800-534-8600 or email flu@hsa.ky. If you have difficulty breathing, call 911.
For more tips, visit www.gov.ky/coronavirus.
The Ministry of Education invites eligible Caymanians to apply for overseas government scholarships for the 2022-2023 academic year. To apply for an overseas government scholarship or learn more about the various scholarship programs, please visit the recently upgraded scholarship application portal at www.moescholarships.gov.ky. Applications close on Monday, 31st of January, 2022.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. DJ Lynn, we still have a caller on hold. That caller's been holding for quite a while, even though I have some WhatsApp messages, but we're going to take this caller because they've been hanging on for quite a while. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Thanks for being so patient.
Happy to be patient. I truly wanted to speak with the gents that you have in front of you, and I have 3 questions. I'll be really quick.
Okay.
First of all, so I'm a resident in the Cayman Islands. My sister is planning to come here. She's going to be in a hotel. However, she doesn't know what is the protocol. I don't know it either. What is the protocol in case her or her plus one is going to be positive and the other one is not going to be positive, right? So will she have to isolate? What is the procedure? 'Cause, like, nobody knows, and I'm sure that we have loads of people coming on the island to see families, but in case they will be positive, nobody knows what's the whole protocol.
Okay.
If you can please, yeah.
I'll quickly just answer that. If you go to the Department of Tourism's website, and I'm certain it should be there by 12 o'clock because I instructed it to be up by today, it'll be a policy are the guidelines for tourism sector in respect to the testing regime. So in there, it gives you scenario planning. So if you get tested positive, what you have to do. The industry have been offering room rates to their customers that they can get it at a cheaper price, and what the reporting mechanisms will be. And the main thing to your question, though, is if the person that is positive that you traveled with, you would have to quarantine with that individual as well. That's the main thing that I think you may be concerned about, particularly if it's not a child, or well, in this case, it would be a person who has to be vaccinated in order to be getting the benefit of no quarantine. So ultimately, you will have to isolate the grouping unless you are planning to separate and have a different room altogether.
Okay, we'll close the lines off.
Caller, are you still there?
I understand that, yes. I understand that. It's just like, it doesn't make any sense if one is positive and one is negative. Because the one that is negative can do a lateral flow test daily, as we do with our kids, and they can go out to school, or they can go out and about.
Well, but this is quite similar to the previous caller before, where the risk levels based on evidence is a little bit different for persons who are traveling than it is for persons locally. And I know it's a bit of an inconvenience, and at this particular point, until we understand better, we're holding that position based on the evidence, particularly with the outbreak that we have. And yes, the lateral flow policy has been a benefit, but it's also getting us in trouble because everybody expects the lateral flow policy locally to be executed in travelers coming in policy, but we're not prepared to do that quite yet because the pandemic is still real, the risk is still heavy, and though we haven't had any severe ailments at the hospital quite yet, we're on the borderline of that, and we cannot afford to increase the risk anymore. So little conveniences like what you're suggesting is something we would want to do because we don't want to have people in isolation. We want people to enjoy themselves. And if you don't have it, of course you to be out in the community and enjoy the Cayman Islands. But there's some level of risk that are a bit too high that we're not prepared to go with quite yet.
Do you have another question, caller?
Yes, I have 2 more.
Okay.
Can
you just give us the 2 of them, and then you can hang up and listen for the answer?
Yes.
Okay.
So the first question is like, when are we going to take responsibility for our own health and stop looking at other people to look after us? I understand that the elderly needs assistance. However, most of us are perfectly capable to take care of our own bodies as we did our entire life prior to the pandemic. That's my first question, right? And I mean, again, we just have to take care of ourselves, of our own body. And the second question is like, what is the time frame to move into the next phase, and we can travel with our kids? Estimated.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. Let me just read this one that I have as well, and then you can incorporate everything into one. This listener says, in regards to the partitioning of, say, outdoor events, will the host of these be obligated to provide non-common facilities, for example, bars, lavatories, and security to ensure that there is no mixing of patrons? What about the parking? Will this be separate also? Is it mandatory for all food and restaurant facilities to have hand sanitizers at the entrance for patrons? Some places refuse to provide the same. So,
OC, if I can, and Premier, if I can, I'm going to take two of those questions, the one about taking care of your body and the events for protocols, and you can handle the heavy one, phase 5, and when that will come.
The heavy lifting.
Okay, but I want to come back to add a bit on the whole question of the events as well.
Yes.
So you go ahead.
Well, you can handle that one. I'll take the easiest one in respect to taking care of our own bodies and responsibilities with the pandemic and the way to protect ourselves. I think the caller's point is it's heavily burden on the government and all governments across the world about constantly having to put protocols in place, and we're going to eventually get to a place where this is going to be about you doing your part to take care of yourself. But as medicines evolve, as vaccination numbers increase, eventually we will get to that place where I think the caller is in his mind, because I agree with him, but we're not quite there yet, and it's maybe right around the corner as we hear about announcements of ways to have medicine to, if you get it, to take it potentially eventually at home and get over it, quite like the flu. So we're getting there, and in the interim, I would encourage persons to take care of your bodies, take care of your responsibilities in respect to your sanitation, as well as your mask wearing, and responsibilities about going to events that may be risky and the like. Because the caller is right. Eventually, we can't continue to operate like in this way. But I know the Premier is going to talk about the large event protocols. But again, I say the onus will be on the event provider. And we will be having officers in the community over the holiday period to watch and monitor these things. And there will be penalties given out for those who breach those protocols as per the regs. So I'll allow Premier to talk about those, or ask the Premier, not allow. Sorry, my apologies. Bad choice of words.
It means he's going to surrender the mic. That's
Exactly.
what he means when he says allow. Yeah. So just in relation to the events issue, we are obviously not going down into the granular levels of mandating things like hand sanitizer at the event and in certain places and all that sort of stuff. But people tend to walk around with their own little supplies of hand sanitizer, but the responsible operators are going to be doing that. They're going to have the facilities. I mean, you go most places these days, even office buildings and any other facility, you find these things, so people can just look out for them and utilize them. But just broadly, and this goes back to another question earlier as well. Yes, if we have an event where you have segregated groups, who won't mix, you obviously have to be able to provide facilities like bathroom facilities and stuff for each of those groups. Otherwise, you end up in a scenario where they are mixing. So event planners would have to make sure that they are organized in a way that they can satisfy those requirements and provide all the usual facilities that people and customers may be accustomed to and may need. On the parking scenario, well, I don't think you're going to have tons of people collecting in a parking lot and then saying, right, let's all jump in our cars together. It is going to be a much more sort of gradual and streamlined approach. So that is, when people are walking to get in their cars, that's just incidental, potential incidental contact. I mean, you typically, the typical advice is, if you are spending some period of time in the same space talking to somebody, that's when your risk goes up. It's usually like 10 or 15 minutes. So these are just incidental things. So we would expect for the segregated options to work, that they have the proper facilities in place, that everybody can utilize and have whatever they need, and cannot, can remain segregated and separate and not mix. Okay. I want to go back very quickly to, I think it was 2 or 3 calls ago, a lady called, and she was talking specifically. No, this was
about the roads.
She was talking specifically about the roads. Obviously, in my constituency, this isn't related to the public health thing, but we do. The NRA is right now in the process of doing work on certain of the roads in Newlands that need to be paved. But it is not a significant amount. Many of the roads in Newlands are in really good condition. So I don't know if it's a particular road that the individual is referring to, but I can assure her that the road that I think she may be referring to, that is the entrance to Moonbeam Drive. It's a short section there, and that is in the process of being addressed.
Excellent.
So that's about the extent of it.
We had that question about the lateral flow test in Cayman Brac.
I don't know.
I didn't hear that. Whether they're available in Cayman Brac?
Yeah, who will be performing it in Cayman Brac?
Yeah, it would be. There's the HSA, I think, over there, that Faith Hospital. Will be offering it over there because there's no private
providers there. Yeah, I think you did mention that. And as far as the public service announcements are concerned, they run on Radio Cayman all the time. I think we ran a couple this morning as well. So again, Radio Cayman continues to do that. And as far as the ministers being on for the record, like I said before, when Minister Bryan, if he isn't on, he'll call in. And it's been, 2 Fridays in a row now that the Premier has been on as well. And we realize that they're extremely busy.
I think this is at least my 4th time being here with you.
Yes.
Well, we'll see if I can chime in a little bit about this topic, because I've been heavy on social media and radio before I became a minister. I must say that there should be a better expectation for more of us being on the radio after the new year. The reopening has been a lot of work on us, where we've been very, very busy trying to get things together, as well as we have a budget next week to present for the next 2 years of this country's future. So once those big ticket items are out of the way, and hopefully by January we can kind of start to level out of how we're handling the pandemic, and get some experience underneath our hands on how to handling tourists in the country and travelers, that I think that more people will be comfortable and ready, prepared, and informed to be more on a regular basis on the radio. So trust me, this government is not afraid of the public. We're just trying to make sure we're getting things right, and sometimes it doesn't allow convenience for us to say so. I just want to say in closing, because I know you're going to wrap us up now.
Well, I'm going to ask the Premier also for some closing comments.
Yes,
also. So you go
I
ahead
just want to say happy International Men's Day. For me particularly, I'm very supportive of International Men's Day, because for a lot of young men out there, I think there are a lot of them losing their way, because not enough of us men are standing up and being good examples for them. Women are doing a great job to support each other as that's the sex, the smarter sex of the group of us.
Gender.
Thank you very much. The smarter gender of us lot, and they work together well. And men, we have an onus to work together, and particularly for the young men out there to help guide them. So happy International Day, Men's International Day. And if you see a young man or a old man, just say, listen, remember your role and the importance that you play in the world of life. God bless everybody, and thank you for having me on the show, OC.
I just want to say before your closing comments, we had a few emails that I didn't read, but they all refer basically to the same thing. For instance, this one says, can you please ask your panelists to provide an explanation as to why current members of our community who are living with known positive individuals within the same household are allowed to self-administer the lateral flow test under the honor system, but incoming travelers who must have a negative PCR test to travel to Cayman is required to pay $25 for the same process. It seems a bit of a rip-off to them. But you've answered these.
Well, just to repeat again,
that
there's a service.
Yes.
There's a service with it of monitoring.
Yes.
We don't necessarily, the honor system is self-monitoring locally. Those travelers have to be monitored in a different way by the healthcare providers, and that comes with a cost.
And the important thing is that the risk we're trying to address is not just whether you're positive. It is to try to contain the potential for people who end up traveling all over the world, because once you leave Cayman, we have lots of people that will travel all over the world. They don't. Not everybody goes to Miami or Tampa and goes shopping. So there is the potential for lots of exposure to all kinds of variants of concern. So that is part of the risk we're trying to address. And that is why we're doing the certification process across the board for everybody. So yeah, Osim, it is always a pleasure to be here with you. But before I give any final comments, I want to take the opportunity to extend condolences to the family of Mr. Gilbert Connolly, who we understand passed away last night. He is the ex-husband of one of our ministers. He is the father of her son, and obviously we have all individually shared our condolences with her and asked her to extend it to the rest of the family. But we want to use this medium to extend it ourselves publicly to all members of the family. So we want to share our condolences in relation to his loss. He's been a significant member of the community, and I believe he was a former civil servant. Is that right?
Yes. He was superintendent of insurance.
Superintendent of insurance,
and then he was in charge of the tourism attractions.
TAB, Tourism Attractions Board. So yes, so we want to, we want to acknowledge that and extend our condolences. Outside of that, OC, I want to reassure people again that though we have a situation where we have relatively high transmission rates going on, we have been advised and we feel that we're in a position to move forward with the lifting of the quarantine requirement for vaccinated travelers. Tomorrow, I expect that to go very well. We will be monitoring things in the coming weeks, obviously, and we will make sure that we're prepared to make any adjustments if we anticipate that there may be any kind of problems. But we think things will be okay, and I think many members of our community are going to basically celebrate tomorrow. Yes, we understand that there are those who are going to be concerned. The truth is, it exists on both scenarios, right? People, those who have suffered from the lockdown have suffered mental health stress and issues because of the lockdown, because of not having the ability to work and earn a living and to be reliant on government support. And then we have those who are concerned and have anxiety about reopening. I want them both to understand that we we care about both of them. We understand their various situations, and we are doing what we're doing to ensure that we have the right balance, and we will act accordingly if we see any kind of risk developing, to act in the best interest and to protect the best interests of the safety and health of the people of the Cayman Islands. So thank you all very much for tuning in. Thank you for all the questions. As Minister Bryan has said, we anticipate being able to come on much more frequently. We've been doing 14-hour days quite often, and we've had to engage with a lot of planning, which we keep saying with the assistance of the program board and the civil servants and the wider public servants. We've been engaged in a lot of planning, a lot of discussions, and the reality is none of the planning had been done before. We had a long time where we were in this bubble and we didn't have problems with local transmission, and for months the civil service could have been asked before the election. They could have been asked to start doing some planning, at least some preliminary stuff. Nothing was done. They weren't asked to do anything. So I want to thank them because they have really put in so much effort, and we are where we are because of the humongous contribution of both the private sector and the public service and the core civil service who have assisted. So thank you all very much. Have a wonderful weekend and a safe weekend for everyone in the Cayman Islands.
Thank you very much, Premier, for being here. Thank you, Minister Bryan, as well. And I just want to say that the last 10 minutes was sponsored by the Minister of Tourism and the Office of the Premier. Also want to give a big shout out to Miss... let me see now, Miss Latoya Seymour, and happy birthday greetings are coming from your mummy, Donna, and the rest of the family. And folks, I'm way over the time, so let's have a great weekend.
I'm going to squeeze another 20 seconds. Happy birthday to my sister, who you just mentioned. She's in the UK. I love you, I love you, I love you. I wish I was there to give you a big hug, but I'll do so in December, Lord's willing. Bye-bye.
Okay. Folks, have a great weekend. Please stay safe, and God bless.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Coca-Cola, available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery, inspiring luxury. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. West Bay Pharmacy, taking care of your health. And RF Group, money at work.
Follow Radio Cayman on Twitter. All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio Cayman.
Today's biggest news.